Welcome everyone to the seventh iteration of the Talks with the Artist in Conversation with the Curator. I'm very, very excited to have a special artist from the show who I'm just in love with their works and just her whole personality. She's awesome. Kiara Machado, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
I was so excited to have her works in the show. I really love the tone of her works. Not only just the color palette, but how they make me feel, how they make the viewers feel, and the information that's contained inside of the works, not just textual, but visual, very emotional and historical. Welcome, Kiara. I don't want to do all the main intro talking, but I'm very happy that you're here and a part of the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I've mentioned so many times before, it's been an honor, to work with you and also to meet in person as well and have the conversations that go beyond, paint, but that go hand in hand, with the work as well, and how important it is to have these discussions alongside, the work. So thank you for having me.
Oh, most definitely. So I guess I would start with one of the first things that caught my eye about your works is I think it's like the muted expression. And what I mean by that is that it's never really outright just like, here it is. But it allows the viewer to take their time with your work. And I got a chance to really do that, on install and creating the publications and things like that. And also with, placement, I got to really understand how your works relate, and also doing, research on you as the artist and, watching different videos and seeing things and learning the history. It was so dope, just seeing how everything related, not only to the theme, but also to Los Angeles. And just the culture of LA. What is it about your practice that you think helps to refresh your culture?
Right. Amazing question. I think that for myself, like you mentioned, I have such a strong SoCal base. I've always been here. So even my experience, with my identity of being Central American or identifying as Central American is very Southern California based perspective versus, folks who are Central American in other parts of, other countries that experience different things. So I think for myself, it's definitely having this balance between wanting to demonstrate, my strong roots here and why, we ended up specifically in Southern California or Los Angeles. And also connecting back to Central America, because that's a huge identity, right? And the complexities of identity and how do I demonstrate all these intersecting factors, visually, and still adding this depth, like you said too, I do want the viewer to have to kind of work for what they're looking at. So that the paintings themselves unveil themselves slowly, or the more you stare at it, the more either hidden imagery, or maybe some folks will see some things or connect with certain parts of it. And so I think maybe that might be the part of it, and also the color palette probably, or being able to see the work in person too, the texture.
Yeah, speaking of texture, one of the things that I love about, especially the Va o Viene, am I saying that correctly, piece?
Va o Viene, yeah.
Va o Viene, yeah, see, I was practicing that.
Yeah.
So what I love about it is that muted texture, being able to see, first of all, the spotlight, where it's kind of guiding the viewer on the subject, letting them understand where to look, but the things that are outside of the spotlight, that rough, oil field, or really that's protruding off the canvas. And it made me think of, what we don't see.
Right.
What I really loved about, the shirt, and we talked about it, the tourist shirts. It's that's what, folks, and I've spoken to plenty of people. I've had the honor of speaking and traveling to different places and talking with folks that have that dream of visiting America, like I had visiting their country. And it's these type images, that they see, that they wear on shirts, giving to them by their family members that live in America or brought back. And, they always say, is LA really like this? Or LA, or is
Right.
it, do they have this? Is Venice Beach really like this? And it kind of reminded me of like what that spotlight, what's in the light.
Right.
But under the lights, or outside of that light, there's a roughness to the city, that's not always visible. We might catch a part of it on documentaries and things that detail the history of LA, but that roughness of the city, and I thought it was really cool that you had it dark under, like the knee, because the feet, and everything, walking and having to deal with all that, and even the face, because sometimes you kind of lose your identity, in the city as well. Can you give us a little background on that one?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think you opened it up like perfectly. In thinking about connecting back to Central America or any other country, right? Any other homeland, between migration, which is a very natural thing that folks and animals do, and then like changing that language to like forced displacement, because then it's like, why is it that there's mass amounts of people leaving everything behind? And still continue to do, through multiple borders, through oceans, So with connecting with these shirts that, from specifically Guatemala and Salvador, which is where my parents are from, and just kind of the irony and the strength of language again, or the phrasing, right? So the phrase that's like behind it that was on the shirt, it says, I just came from here, like, when are you gonna go? And then so like it starts off, when are you going to go, and then it ends up coming into like, when are you coming? So also in thinking about borders, like you said, sometimes these are like the only connections that we have to vice versa, the motherland or the homeland. And how much like we either cultivate these shirts, or like sometimes this shirt in particular I hadn't worn because I don't want to get like paint on it, or I don't want to get holes on it, so I just like wore it for like the reference pictures, and then like put it away. And how we like kind of hold on to these things, because sometimes it's like it's not easy to go back and forth, but also I have like this privilege of being able to go back, and I'm gonna always see, as much as we try and blend in, right, because of either the certain parts that we go to that's not necessarily safe in a way, no matter what or how much we try and blend in, like I stand out, like it just doesn't matter. So, then like when we go back, we're seen as purely American. And then here it's like, that's the last thing that folks like, think of us. So I think that's like my like fascination right now with like specifically the spotlight on the shirt, to highlight, like you said, like, and also how America has been seen as like, the save all. And you also don't want to dissuade folks that are doing this heinous journey, is not the right word. I still haven't found like a good word that describes, that forced displacement. But yeah, I think it's just all these things that add onto these complexities of where we are, being able to move back and forth, who gets to, travel or move, either through safety, comfort, nostalgia, or anything like that. But yeah.
Is there any significance with the color of the wording, or the palette of the blue and black, and then the yellow being able to, or I guess, making its appearance in the spotlight? Is that like referencing anything?
I definitely took more so the color palette and like heightened it, focusing on the shirt. So that phrase is painted or is on the shirt. I just like on the physical shirt, I just took it off, took off the phrase and just put it on the background. So it was definitely, the whole like color palette was definitely inspired by the shirt itself. Yeah.
How has like family members, reacted to your work? I've always been interested with, especially like second generation, even first generation artists that I've worked with, that use artwork to reflect and refresh community stories and histories, how the previous generation feels, and how are they able to translate that? How has like family, how they reacted to your work?
I think it's definitely opened up a lot of conversation, and it's been healing. And I think that's something else that, I'm constantly thinking about is all these things, certain stories I am able to portray visually, but others, I don't just want to profit off of like traumas, right? Like, oh, like this is going to get,
Yeah, most definitely.
a lot of inspiration, because then it's like, again, like who is it benefiting? It's like, just because that's our history, I still don't have that right. There's things that I don't want to talk about, so I can't inflict that on other people. Like, I need a new painting, so tell me about this.
Yeah.
So I forgot the question.
No. I guess it was, pretty much understand like the the reactions of like family and friends, especially, first and second generation.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. No worries.
I think something else that's also interesting is like, I feel we have a lot of artists within the family, but I don't think they would necessarily consider themselves artists because they didn't go to institutions or, they didn't have formal training, but I view them as artists because, they do this beautiful, woodwork. My grandma does, stuff with like fabrics and, or she would tell me to like draw stuff, and then she would, I can't think of it in English, but like crochet, I guess, or, with like sewing and stuff.
Yeah.
And with my work, it's very interesting because I feel like, sometimes they're kind of are like, oh, wow, like you're doing amazing. But I just don't want, I want it to open up and not be like elite or classist or hierarchical, even within my family, and I think that there are different stages, because when I was first starting off, they were definitely like, what does that mean? Like, what's an artist? How are you going to get money?
Yeah.
And of course, it's like, oh my gosh, my parents crossed so many borders and I'm just like painting away,
Yeah.
So it is interesting, but it is nice to also be able to grow with them in the sense of like being able to occupy spaces that I didn't think that, we would be able to be in, or travel to like new places because my work is there, and they come with me, and then they themselves being able to be like, I like that painting and I don't like that painting, so it's really cool. I think it's definitely been a healing and growing process, being able to be an artist and then being able to have like certain conversations.
Has it allowed them the opportunity to learn more, not just about your art, but art in general, and how it relates, like even going back to older Guatemalan artists, and things like that, like historical art? Have they tried to reach back in order to kind of like see where it relates? Like, oh, okay, your work reminds me of, this artist. Have they tried that?
I think not specifically towards like specific artists, but it is definitely nice to see how like excited they are. Now even seeing like paintings, or like, oh, like what about this one, or like that, are you going to paint that, or like that's really good inspiration, so it's really funny to be like, I'm like, I can't paint everything, or like, are you, like this photo, it's like really beautiful, or like they'll just start sending me like pictures of like family members. Thankfully, we do have family photos with it when they were younger, which I know is like really rare in a lot of cases. But yeah, they'll just like send me pictures like randomly, and they're like, this one's nice, so it is really cool. And also like throughout this pandemic, like they've been missing art events, and now like, oh, I get to like get dressed up, so it's really, really cool to connect with that. Or they're like, hopefully, like one day you'll be able to show in Central America. So
that's, that would be
really
be
cool.
awesome. That would be so dope. And it's probably built a whole new relationship as well, you know what I mean? And that's so cool. Here, with my family, and just seeing the development of the relationship between me and my mom, and different things that we find out as adults that we have in common, and you become more friends. And she knows that I'm doing art stuff and curating, and she'll see stuff like, did you see this, and I'll be like, yeah, Mom, I've seen that so many times, but
and in person,
like, but to them it's the first time. And sometimes we forget that this is them sharing with you. We get bombarded with social media and so much all day, to where we've seen something 100 times, and by the time our parents send it to us, we're like, oh my God, if I have to see this again. But they're not as up on everything as we are. So it's like I'm starting to learn more to just appreciate the texts at 6 a.m. about stupid nonsense, and I'm still trying
Yeah.
to just get my life together in the morning.
Right.
So it's really cool.
Yeah.
The next piece, Reflexiones, I really love. I'll tell you the scene that I see with this. I immediately, because I was hanging with my bros Antonio and Isaac, the Pelayos at El Velorio, and they had a stage that reminds me exactly of this painting.
Oh,
And
okay.
everywhere it was like a nice stage, because when I look at this, I see like all the drapes coming down. It feels like I'm at like a wedding or an event. And like I see like the dance floor, and I see the flowers and everything around, and I just want to get on the dance floor and start just jamming. Like that's
Yeah.
how I felt. And it also in a traditional sense, it made me feel like the opening scene of the movie The Godfather, when they were getting married, and all the flowers, and all of the colors and everything. Like it had a very familial vibe to it.
Yeah.
It was almost like the photo you take before everyone arrives at the wedding, or arrives at the quinceañera, or
Yeah.
or like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it just seems like if you would just import a little family there, like right in the middle with like a family photo, it would go perfect for like a backdrop. Can
Yeah.
you give us a little bit of a background on this beauty?
Definitely. So it's actually like the image is inverted. So it's only like you start off with like the first corner, and it's just like inverted and mirrored over
Really?
again.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So I wanted to do it since I worked with like mirrored images, right, on like other diptychs,
Yeah.
but they've been on different panels. So for this one, I was like, I wanted the image to repeat itself just enough before it became a pattern, right? Like before it lost its meaning, before it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I already know what's the next one's gonna be. And with this one too, yeah, definitely the color palette, I think there is like this stillness and calmness to it. But there's just like so much going on that I think, again, with like the texture and all the botanicals, and yeah, like the bottom is like a wooden floor with palm leaves on top, but because of like the way that it's mirrored, yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, I wonder if folks are like going to be able to tell that it's like wood, you know. So it's really cool to see that, that is like the floor, the foreground. But yeah, with like the whole sense of it mirroring itself, it is definitely, and like how the title says, reflexiones, which is translated into reflections, kind of like an introspective or reflection, and like a constant growing or constant critiquing of oneself, or looking at things that have happened. Because this was, I pretty much worked on this throughout, like, I think the first year of like the lockdown, which I was like, everything was gloomy, everything was like 100 times, worse,
Yeah.
which is a very interesting time. But yeah, so that was kind of like my thought process behind this piece, with certain events going on, and like thinking about that, and like we're literally reflecting on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool, like the double and triple entendres that come with reflexiones, reflections, being able to see the actual reflection, like you said, of an image, the mirroring and constant mirroring of that image mixed in with color, but also like, the reflection of like me just going into like a whole like little tangent,
Right.
on how
Yeah.
that, remembering memories and, other visuals that, remind me of that, in its abstraction.
Yeah.
It's what was the original image that, made you mirror that? Like what inspired the mirroring, I guess?
So it's a hammock.
Hmm.
The red drape, it's a hammock, and we have I don't know, it's pretty common, I think, for Central American folks, but we have hammocks indoors. Like I have one in my
Nice.
studio, my parents have one, we're gonna put one in the living room. Like it's just,
Nice.
I think
I
it's
think
like
that's
a
a
thing.
Cali thing. Like I
Yeah.
think I've seen a lot of people with them in their living rooms. Like I think that's a Cali thing. Like we're
Okay.
all just lazy. Like, we just like to relax and take the time. It's always nice, you know what I mean? So you get a
Yeah.
beautiful day, and you get a chance to really just sit in your space and relax. A
Yeah.
hammock is where it's at.
Yeah, and it's just like, again, with like the colors, that one is from Guatemala that my mom had brought. So yeah, so it's just like so I set this up in my studio. Like I bought all the, flowers from the flower district, set it up in my studio, set up like the lighting. And I think with like a lot of these things, I have to kind of like sit with them for like a bit. And then I think that's when I kind of edited the reference photo, and I had it for a while, and then I started kind of like thinking about it. And sometimes I feel like I do think like very literally, and then I'm like, okay, it can't be like that literal, and just having that time with it, I think really helped. And that's why also like with the scale of it, I really wanted the viewer to be like consumed by the painting, right? So like you can stand in front of it and still have like a huge part of the painting like be beside you, like really consume you. And it's funny because like again, I think everything with scale in my studio, it felt huge. And then whenever I bring it to the gallery, I'm like, oh, like I could have gone bigger, you know? But yeah, I think also thinking about like the scale and how like the viewer is in comparison to the piece also really adds another layer to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. What was the basis for the color palette? Like I'm really interested because like it seems like the colors would be very contrasting, but they seem to work really well meshed together in this painting.
Yeah, I think with the feelings of, like red's very intense color, but I felt like here it is kind of in a sense comforting, but still and I think with like how the flowers are kind of concaving, or the way that they're mirrored, still also because kind of incites a little bit of like sorrowness or sadness a little bit. So I did want to kind of balance between all these emotions of the stillness, but also a little bit of like sorrowness with like the heaviness of everything that was going on. That's how I viewed, or that's why I wanted to kind of use this color palette. And I think like this was either the first time of like me putting or using all these colors together, which again, also like very interesting, right? I think it helps to like physically see it, or like, I'll start lighting things up and I'm like, okay, this kind of works, but yeah, it was very exciting to use, these, this color palette all in one painting.
So for my final question of the session, what are you most excited about your practice? Like what really gets you excited about being a painter?
I think looking into the future, however many years, I'm blessed on this earth, to see like where my work goes. The one thing that I would detest is for my like work to become stagnant. Like, I think as artists, we all know what sells. So I think for myself is like, now that I've, painted with these elements, I'm like, okay, how do I go further? Or like, what other things also add on to like culture or identity, or, how I'm contributing to like community, or, so I think that's like the constant growth, or like excited about the future in the sense of just continually critiquing myself and my work, like critically looking at my work. And yeah, just like not wanting it to be just to become like stale or stagnant, or like, oh, okay, she's gonna paint this again, like, so that's where I'm excited to see where my work goes.
Me too. I'm
Thank
super
you.
excited. So thank you so much, Kiara. Like dude, I'm a huge fan of your work. And like I said, I'm just so excited to see where it goes. And just like, as it grows, especially in, content and scale, I'm excited to see your first 30-foot painting,
I'm excited too.
you know what I mean? Like and just see how you really take, space and really just use that detail and bring out so many stories that are necessary to be told. And I'm just excited. So,
Thank you so much.
so everybody watching, please check out more of her amazing work. You can check out the show until February 20th. While you're in town, check it out at ArtShare. The address is down there. And also on everyone's email and flyers, you can check out ArtShare's Instagram as well. Thank you so much, y'all, for being here. And we look forward to working more and doing some more cool stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.